You Are the Narcissist. Part 2. Many people find out that they're dealing with a narcissist, that their romantic partner or a family member, a colleague or a neighbour or a friend is a narcissist, and often there is a near irresistible urge to tell that person you know what they are. Sometimes it's done out of wanting to help that person. They don't realise what they are. The victim believes that this person could receive some help, and they want to let that person know for the purposes of helping them, so that they perhaps can gain insight, so that they can see what they are. It isn't done with judgment, it's done with compassion. In other instances, it is done almost in a contemptible way to say to that individual, I know what you are, you don't fool me, I've seen through you. It's done in a hostile fashion. Of course, taking such a step means continuing an interaction with a narcissist which is not sensible, because you're going to be giving the narcissist fuel. You're going to cause your emotional thinking to increase because you're breaching no contact and entering arenas of interaction. You're also going to run the risk of adverse consequences and possibly triggering further hoovers. And therefore logic dictates that you should never ever tell a narcissist that you know what they are. Instead, you should utilize that knowledge for your own good. But naturally, as a truth-seeking empath, you have a curiosity about how the narcissist might respond. And that's the whole point of so much of my information, is to let you know the way that we think, behave, and respond without you actually having to experience the problem of going through it. A safe way of getting answers to the many questions that you have. Previously, I've set out in part 1 the responses of lesser narcissists. But what if you're entangled with a mid-range narcissist? How will he or she react when you decide to utilize your newfound knowledge to explain to this person that they are a narcissist? What is their response likely to be? Will they accept what you are telling them? Will they act on this revelation in a constructive way? Like the lesser narcissists, the mid-rangers have no insight and no awareness of what they are. The response of the mid-ranger will depend on which subcategory he or she belongs to. The lower mid-range narcissist. If you tell the lower mid-range narcissist that he or she is a narcissist, and even if you try to explain it by reference to behaviors of this person and material which coincides with those behaviors, the lower mid-range narcissist will simply not countenance it. You can expect that if you suggest this in an angry or accusatory fashion, then the lower mid-range narcissist reaction will lean more towards that of the lesser, causing an irritated response because you are challenging them. However, you're delivering this accusation with fuel, and therefore the narcissist will remain in order to draw the fuel from you, but will need to nullify the threat to control that you have posed, thus denying the suggestion that you have made and provoking further argument. The more that you persist in trying to explain to him or her that his or her behaviors accord with the actions and words of a narcissist, the more they will deny and deflect all in the pursuit of the fuel that you are offering, and, of course, to nullify control threat that you pose by causing you to give up in frustration and that you depart the argument. The lower mid-range narcissist will be fueled and content that they have seen off your nonsensical challenge. You can expect to hear comments during this argument such as, I don't do those things, stop making these things up. I only stay in the study when you've been horrible to me. How is that a silent treatment? If you were nicer to me, I wouldn't want to go out and see my friends as much. If you deliver this accusation in a no-fuel manner, admittedly very difficult to do, trying to explain it reasonably, then you are still criticizing, of course, the lower mid-range narcissist. He will recognize that the behaviors you describe are regarded as problematic, although he will not accept that they have any applicability to him whatsoever. Whereas if this was done with a lesser narcissist, he would erupt in heated fury. The lower mid-range narcissist is more likely to respond with cold fury. Your criticisms will wound, the fury will ignite since he has a low control threshold over it, and he will just storm away from you, fuming, but unable to draw fuel from you, nor seeing the potential for fuel, unlike the argumentative scenario I've described earlier. The low mid-range narcissist is far more likely to sulk and engage in a silent treatment in order to try and draw fuel from you. If this doesn't work and you persist in trying to explain your point, say by following him and continuing the commentary, he will have a pressing need to escape your criticism and halt the wounding and seek fuel elsewhere. You can expect him to leave the vicinity, seek fuel from somebody else, and dole out a longer silent treatment to you. If this takes place during devaluation, as it invariably will, he's likely to head to the prospective primary source that he's seducing and draw fuel from that person. If the other person knows about you, you will end up being smeared as an indirect assertion of control, and your reasonable explanation will be portrayed as an unmerited attack in order to secure sympathy fuel. If the other person does not yet know about you, the narcissist is likely to seek fuel from your competitor by way of them complimenting them instead. Thus, the lower mid-range narcissist will either deny and state a provoking argument to gain fuel, or, if there's no fuel available, he will try a present silent treatment to try and draw some from you, and if that does not work, he will absent himself. What about the medium mid-range narcissist? Well, this covers both A and B because they are branches from a much larger branch and are very similar in their behaviours. The middle mid-range narcissist will seize on the opportunity to draw fuel if accused of being a narcissist. He will naturally not accept it, but if you deliver the accusation and accompanying evidence in a fuel-filled manner, then he will continue the argument to keep drawing on this fuel. He will not erupt in a temper as a consequence of this challenge, and to keep the fuel flow going, he will instead issue excuses for the behaviour that you've challenged with. He will deny that he's behaved in this manner, blame you instead, and fail to see that there is anything wrong or narcissistic in what he does. You can in turn expect to be blamed as being the narcissist. With sufficient cognitive function and a degree of knowledge, combined with his complete inability to accept what you're saying, you'll be subjected to considerable projection. The middle mid-range narcissist will seize on the information you present him with and concoct lies as he turns it around and projects it onto you. During this exchange, you can expect to hear, "You are the one who goes off in a huff. You are always refusing to speak to me. I don't lose my temper over nothing. That's your trick. Only last week, you went off it when I worked late. I don't bring up things from the past. You're always doing it. You have some cheek of accusing me of these things when you do it all the time. Stop trying to mess with my head. It won't work. Typical. You accuse me of controlling behaviour, and here you are trying to tell me what I am. You are the narcissist, not me. Ask anybody who knows me, and they will tell me I don't do those things. In fact, Donna only remarked last week about how she thought you did narcissistic things." If you somehow deliver the accusation of that person being a narcissist in a fuel-free manner, this will be criticism and will cause wounding. Ignited fury will manifest as a present silent treatment, which will be punctuated with denials in the hope of drawing a reaction from you, and, particularly with the middle mid-range type B, pity plays in order to gain fuel. The narcissist will maintain some effort to achieve this, never erupting in a temper, but rather sulking, and then stating that he is not a narcissist in the hope of you causing you to show some emotion, some sympathy, some support, and provide him with fuel. Projection will again be engaged in. He will not need to exit with the speed of the lower mid-range narcissist, but there will be sulking and punctuated comments as follows: "I can't believe you can be so hurtful. Actually, I can, since you're a narcissist. I can't believe how hypocritical you are calling me, of all people, a narcissist. You've got some cheek accusing me of the very thing that you are." If you do not provide this fuel and continue to advance that he is a narcissist, he can only withstand this wounding for a short period of time, and ultimately he'll leave the vicinity. You can expect a prolonged silent treatment. This is done to avoid being wounded further, so that when he reappears, you will have hopefully lost interest in telling him that he is a narcissist, and to allow him to draw fuel from another source, which is most likely going to be the person who's being seduced to replace you as the primary source. Thus, the middle mid-range narcissist, whether A or B, will engage in an argument, not an explosive one, and will do so with excuses and projection. Prolonged exposure to criticism will bring about the withdrawal and a prolonged silent treatment. The upper mid-range narcissist, unsurprisingly, will capitalize on any provision of fuel when you deliver your verdict to gain more fuel. Being closer to the greater school, The upper mid-ranger will more likely utilize charm and persuasion, coupled with the less aggressive nature of the mid-range school, in order to work the situation to his advantage. He does not accept that he is a narcissist, but he will notice some similarity in behaviors. He will therefore accept that he may behave in the way that you describe, but he will always have an excuse for why he behaves like that, be it an environmental factor. I know I can be withdrawn, but it is because I'm so tired from working so hard, and I'm not sleeping well. Or to blaming you. I disappear because you're so hurtful in your comments towards me, and I'm not going to shout in front of the children. Thus, you will be lulled into thinking that you are making some progress because there is recognition, but this is just a form of manipulation. This is being done in order to make it seem like you are making headway, but there is no real insight, merely a ruse. So you keep engaging and providing fuel through the ongoing discussion as your irritation, frustration, upset, and anger increase. Accordingly, if you deliver the accusation in a fueled manner, you can expect to be drawn into a lengthy discussion where there will be no acceptance, and instead a continued attempt to draw fuel from you. If you accuse the upper mid-range narcissist of being a narcissist and manage to do so without fuel, then naturally this is a criticism and you cause wounding. He has some control and the fury will not ignite straight away. Instead, he will remain and try to draw fuel from you in order to heal the wound. This will manifest through the making of excuses, seeking to draw some sympathy, and then move on to projection in order to try to get an emotional reaction from you. The upper mid-range narcissist has a higher energy level and a higher control threshold over the fury, so therefore there will be extra effort placed into the attempt to garner fuel from you. Thus, you can expect to hear comments such as, "I might do these things, but I am shattered from all the work I do looking after you. I am not a narcissist, but I understand why you might think some of the things, not all, are hurtful. Perhaps we can work something out. I am not what you say I am, but I guess I have a few issues. It's just because I'm so stressed. I need you to help me, please. Will you help me? You know I have said I needed your help, but you won't give up accusing me, and do you know why that is? Because you're one, and you're trying to mess with my thoughts. I don't need, actually, any help at all. You do. I might do a few of those things, but who doesn't? What we really should be talking about is your behaviour. You know, I didn't know what you were until you started mentioning these narcissistic behaviours, but now I come to think of it, it's clear that you're a narcissist and we should be discussing you, not me. It will prove difficult in such a scenario with the initial sympathy sinking and then projecting and blame-shipping up a mid-range narcissist not to provide fuel. Therefore, it's highly likely that he'll not need to exit the scene and dole out a silent treatment because he'll gain fuel and cause you to make admissions about your own behaviour not being perfect in order to deflect from discussing him. When forced to defend yourself, you will react in an emotional fashion, and thus you will provide the control that the narcissist seeks and the fuel that the narcissist requires. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.